The guitar parts are ridiculous. I think a lot of them are actually, they look and sound to me like keyboard parts. Really challenging, like just crazy jumps. When we were mixing Gravity, the first time the chorus comes in, he's like, okay, let's stop. How do we give this more teeth?
I labored over Guitar 2 book. It took me so long to be able to play that confidently. But to manage all of the other instruments on top of Guitar 2, we're talking Guitar 2. For you specifically, let's just talk about the guitar parts for a second. Were you practicing these parts like crazy? And were you referencing the Broadway orchestrations, or were you kind of using that as inspiration and coming up with your own thing? Like, what were you doing? Like, were you shedding this stuff like crazy, or were you kind of just running with it?
I was definitely referencing all the charts and quite often sight reading. Um, and uh, and and I had the benefit of being able to punch in, which I definitely took advantage of on the guitar tracks because my guitar playing is, I play guitar in a lot of records, but I'm a much better drummer and piano player than I am a guitar player. Um, so yeah, there was there was plenty of punching in. Um, I also decided to double all the guitar tracks just to make it feel more recordy. Um, I mean, not probably not every track, but a lot of them. Um, and the guitar parts are ridiculous. I think a lot of them are actually, they look and sound to me like keyboard parts. I can tell they weren't written by guitar players. And they're really challenging, like just crazy jumps, almost like Alan Holdsworth, sort of like all over the neck. Like my hand should really be, 5 times the size that they are to really nail those parts. So, yeah, plenty of punching in on the guitar. Um, and then sometimes I was very, very, very faithful to the charts. The charts are excellent. And then for some reason on Defying Gravity, my collar is pulled so hard toward that song. On that song, I didn't really look at the charts. Um, Hardly at all. And I just went for it. The song got changed. There's some new sections in it. There's some new music in it because of the way that our director John M. Chu wanted to blow up the narrative and add some kind of reflective moments toward the end. And again, we have the luxury of making things a bit more cinematic, things that you wouldn't be able to do as effectively on stage. So, but even so, that stuff I tried to just use my ear as much as possible. There were a few things I missed. There were some Ebow parts. The Ebow, those guys are so in love with the Ebow, and honestly, I've never played Ebow before, so I had to kind of like learn how to make that happen. I was kind of avoiding it, like, and then they didn't really ask for it until the end. They're like, "Where's the Ebow? What about that Ebow? Oh, the Ebow." So I had to go to the charts for the Ebow stuff. There were some things I missed by not referencing the chart on Gravity.
I was so fascinated about the Ebow parts because I was listening to the whole movie saying, are they going to put those in because it's such a weird sound? And I think the only time I really heard it was that those lines in Defying Gravity. But you mentioned it earlier. But was there more pressure to put in more Ebow, and did you push against it, or did you think maybe for the movie it doesn't quite fit the same as it does in the show?
I never verbally pushed against it. Mentally, I pushed against it just because I had never played Ebow before. I think I was just a bit scared of it. But I bought an Ebow many, 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 many months ago, and I just had it sitting on my console, kind of staring at it. Um, it's all there. Every Ebow chart, every Ebow part on any chart is you'll hear it on the soundtrack album. Things change when it gets on the dub stage and the director's saying, I need to hear more foot stomps or more explosions or whatever. And my mix, Andy Nelson was very respectful of my mix. I delivered 7/1 mixes, which is how he mixed the movie, 7/1. But, there's also, it's not just a movie mix. It's like all his dialogue and it's other stuff. So I agree. That's the only time I really noticed the Ebow as well in the movie mix. But it's all there. I played all of it. And there were
Yeah, yeah.
requests. There were a few things on the chart that I missed, and they're like, "Oh, there's another Ebow part. You know, check it out." Like those guys love the Ebow. That's all I have to say.
How important, because I feel like the guitar effects fill the sonic character of the guitar part, but I also think there's a lot that has to do with the sonic character of the show, like the choruses of the guitar, the rotary. I don't know if you used any sequoia at any points in this.
I also bought a Sequoia pedal.
And you had to buy a sequoia pedal. Did you labor over getting the right sounds? Were they plugins? Were they real pedals? Where were they coming from?
You know, I mean, this stuff it came from like 20 years ago, right? Like the Sequoia was new at that point, and people were freaking out, and it just got built into the ecosystem of that sound. Um, we, yeah, like I didn't really know how to make the thing work, and I tried a plug-in version of it, and Steven Reeves was like, "No, that's not it. Like, you know, you need to get the pedal." So I did, and the pedal is sort of mysterious. It's weird, and one of the guitar players on the show very sweetly sent me an audio clip, and I think there was even a diagram, like he took a photo of how he set the pedal up, which was super helpful, and so I got it as close as I could, and um, there's some sequel on there as well. Yes.
Isn't the part about Wicked on the music side is that it's an orchestra with basically a rock band in the center of it? Is that kind of how you think of it? Like there's a whole rock band in the middle of the music surrounded by an orchestra. Are those the two elements that have to get balanced with it?
Certainly on some of the songs, yeah, absolutely, yeah. You know, certainly on Gravity, that is what it is. I mean, I when it kicks into gear, I think it was like 12 guitars I had going, you know, double tracked through various amps. Like I have this beautiful uh JCM 800 that's kind of darker sound. He records beautifully. I had a bunch of those like Les Paul going through that, and then I have this Supro amp that I love, and I have a Friedman amp that I love, and I went nuts, like just tons of guitars. Then I have this old Fender 6, you know, the Fender 6 bass guitar,
Yep.
this
Yeah,
old
yeah.
Nashville thing. Then I ran that through a Marshall and was playing the low, crazy bass notes. You can hear it on Gravity. It's kind of out of tune, but it makes it growl. And I really like went stuff I would probably only do with a proper rock band. Um, uh, and then even more weird, distorted stuff. Double tracking bass guitar, maybe triple tracking bass guitar with distortion. Not every song is a rock band, you know, but I think where I was going with bringing up Steven saying it's a horror movie, his compositions really do go from like Sentimental Man, which has a sort of vaudevillian soft shoe dance section in it in the movie, to Popular, to the opening overture, which almost sounds Wagnerian, or like Beethoven or both. It's brilliant writing, but he's just full of surprise. He's a great piano player, and he can really authentically go to so many different places. He's almost like I mean, he's an incredibly intelligent, very well read, very curious person with very high antenna. And, you know, he was friends with Leonard Bernstein. I mean, he's that guy. And he can rock. I mean, like when we were when we were mixing Gravity, the first time the chorus comes in, when she's singing kind of quietly, it's like right as she's like, something has changed within me, is that moment, you know, and then she goes to leap, I think I'll try, that moment. He's like, okay, let's stop. He said, how do we give this more teeth? And there's really no teeth at that point. It's everything kind of light. I'm just like on the ride cymbals, just grabbing accents. But I did play some sort of like, I had bass with like kind of a light octaver on it. It's like, and he loved that. He loves bass slides. So he's like, turn that up when it slides. So if you hear it, it does it in the movie too. If you listen on the soundtrack, there's like kind of a sinister thing happening, and then I had some distorted guitars doing it kind of quietly. He's like, turn them up a little bit. He's like always looking for the kind of like the scary element, you know? Like I don't think he's looking for like that kind of rock, but it's more like the ominous, the wicked part, you know?